The next session is about what goes through the mind of an entrepreneur when looking at selling the firm. We have an interesting set of people for that conversation. For this session, we have Mr. N.S. Rajan, who is the founder of Sampark, which later became Sampark. Zacharia James, who founded 6 Degrees PR, which is now known as 6 Degrees BCW. And Kartikeya Prakash, partner, corporate, commercial, and M&A at Khaitan & Co. This session is being chaired by Archana Jain, founder, PR Pundit. May I please have on stage Mr. Rajan, Kartikeya, Zach, and Archana.
My question to him is, why me to moderate the session? I have no idea what it is to sell. I've built an organization, painstakingly, yes, 25 years now. But yes, curious now. Have I really missed the boat? So I guess that may be something that many of you may also be thinking about, right? When is the time to seek a strategic investor? I hate the word sell, and we being in PR, we are supposed to be wordsmiths, right? We're not supposed to use language casually. And so I don't believe that selling is the right word. So I'd say the way to look at it, and I think Kartikeya from Khaitan would also say, it's a nice way to say it is, when do we look for a strategic investment in our enterprises? And we have some great minds here today. Let me start with Zacharia James. Zacharia James sort of co-founded a company called 6 Degrees, and before that, Alphabet Consulting. So my word for him is he's probably a serial entrepreneur here. And he built it to a worthy stature of really to interest the world's number 3 firm, BCW, part of the WPP group, in 2015. And so let's hear from him, really. At what stage do you decide that you need to welcome or seek a strategic investment? What is the motive? Or was there a compulsion? Did he feel that, okay, I've burnt out, I really don't know, am I bored? Has an organization, have we peaked independently to try and infuse some fresh energy?
Thanks, Archana. Good evening, everyone. We started Alphabet in 2008 and 6 Degrees in 2009. And we sold in 2015, as Archana just mentioned. For us, the compulsion, it was actually a compulsion to sell was to stay relevant. What was happening during that time was there was, the entire communications landscape was going through a lot of change. And we had 2 options. We could either develop new communication offerings and, back that with robust methodologies, developed by ourselves, or do we kind of partner and collaborate with someone who's already at the forefront of providing those services, and they then could kind of really help quickly transition us into delivering those services. So for us, WPP at that point of time, had reached out along with a few others, and it made sense for us. And that's when we decided to sell. But from a strategic investment point of view, no, we weren't looking for a strategic investment. There was no need for, any financial resource. But typically, if there's a company out over there looking for a strategic investment, I think it would be for either financial resource or it would be for the brand and its, credibility, or it could even just be for, the technology and innovation that they possess, which you would like to have for yourselves, or the guidance and expertise that they could help, provide to you and your team.
Let me bring in Rajan here. Rajan, you kind of founded Sampark, or co-founded Sampark in 1994. And in 2011, you welcomed Ketchum, part of IndeComms, really to sort of partner you. You mentioned in conversation you wanted to prepare for a soft landing.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so as we grew, I think at one point of time we had about 70, 80 people. And, I felt, it's always, I look at it as a family. So, what you prepare for your family in terms of taking life insurance and other stuff, I thought I must also prepare the organization for a soft landing in case something happens to me. And that's when we thought that, we should get into a foreign tab because it helps in very many ways. But even before the foreign tab came, I think we have been very fortunate. A lot of good things happened to us by accident. We actually had a preferred partner relationship with Ketchum for almost 7 years before we tied up with them in 2011. That means we worked with them from 2004. So we were pretty much comfortable with the culture, the philosophy, the way they work. And I knew everybody in Ketchum, not only Ketchum, but I also knew everybody in IndeComms, which is the parent company. So typically, this is more like a private equity firm where they keep investing into hundreds of businesses. And Ketchum is just one business out there. It's one brand. So I had that great advantage of knowing everybody from the CEO downwards in Ketchum and also in IndeComms. So I think the important thing is we felt that, and we were comfortable with Ketchum. I think that's the larger part. And by and large, they agreed to whatever we wanted, or it was a very fair deal. I think I don't have any complaints about the tie-up with Ketchum. Whatever was said in the agreement, whatever I wanted, we got it. Even today, we are very friendly with everybody out there. I still go to the US. I still meet all of them, not only in Ketchum, but also in IndeComms. So, it's been a great relationship, and it continues to be a great relationship at the personal level now.
That brings me to another question around the same thing is, you obviously did not have anybody guide you through the acquisition or investment.
We did have a merchant banker. We did have a lawyer. But I think, since we worked for 7 years, by the way, with all due respect to my lawyer friend here, I think the lawyers are the guys who make probably the maximum trouble for you as a small seller. They come up with some impossible conditions, which is very difficult to explain if you don't know the people. So, you could get gypped. But in my case, fortunately, I knew company law. I knew law very well. I knew structuring. I knew finance well. So I knew exactly what every clause meant. And all I had to do is just pick up the phone and speak to the CFO of Ketchum and said, look, this is not happening. And he would change it.
So Kartikeya, on that note, I was saying you're a partner at Khaitan and Company and has been sort of privy to many M&A deals, including the Nielsen most recently. What role do you play, or how would you advise this bunch of entrepreneurs sitting here as to what is it that you need to look out for when you're seeking a suitor for strategic investment? What are the top 3 things that we need to bear in mind? And I say we because, I'm an independent.
No, thanks. And thanks, Rajan sir. Perhaps, to a point, you could be right. If there's not a right person advising on the transaction, this could lead to some roadblocks. So, and then, of course, your transaction back then in 2004 and 11, the way Mr. Behel was explaining that the PR industry is growing in India, the legal industry also grew up. So a lot of things have become mature, the approach towards the deal have changed. But anyway, I'm putting a pause on the explanation on that point. Coming back to Archana's point. 3 things and across industry, which becomes the prime thing is to see, why do you need this? The first question. Do you need the finance or capital for growth? Do you need because you are looking into an exit sort of a role from here? Or you are looking for a real partnership? All these tie in with the 2 examples Jack and Mr. Rajan put across. They knew, Mr. Rajan knew Jack needed synergy. So I mean, similarly, the question will be before you, why do you need this? And that question leads to another partner, that what sort of partner you are looking at. KHM here is an example, was correlated with a private equity fund, which in our legal term we call financial sponsors. They like to align themselves with the founders. They kind of piggyback on you. They would like you to continue with the business for a certain time. Compared with a strategic investor like WPP or many other groups we can name here, they have the internal capability. They are looking at your business as such. Even if tomorrow you decide to walk out, perhaps they'll be able to submerge it with their internal group. Someone else will come and make it work. So the second question, what sort of partner you are looking at? And the third is, of course, have you prepared yourself? And this question is slightly wide. It includes a lot of queries. That when we say preparation, is it purely a talent-driven business? I mean, are you the sole one running the business at this stage? Because look, I mean, if I'm an investor, perhaps I don't have so many gray hairs, but I'm just saying, if I'm an investor, I'm evaluating an opportunity. A pure talent business is not an opportunity for a financial investor. Your asset, when it goes up and down through lift every day, it's not a safe place to put your money at, right? So all financial investors, the way the international market is growing, and we are hoping that the Indian market will grow in the same bracket. When you are looking for financial investor to come in and put in money, they would look at the overall business structure. Are you prepared for? Can it work in isolation, even when you are personally not the part of it? So these are three things. I think the third is kind of subjective and wide.
No, thank you. So essentially, we need to institutionalize our enterprises, not just be purely founder-driven, to be able to sort of become maybe suitable for a potential investor. Thank you. So valuations are important criteria, right? I guess we've put everybody who's been an entrepreneur, we've toiled hard to create a certain value. And obviously we want to say to buy that particular house in Almora, or to sort of maybe fund a passion project of ours. So what is it that will give us better valuations? Would it be selling to an entity that is not present in the country? Would it be integrating with an existing firm? We've had examples of that, right? Hanma, when got it merged into MSL, was already around. Or recently, Avian bought in investment from We. I'm sure there are other examples. Would you like to sort of throw some light on it, all three of you?
Sure. I think fundamentally it depends on what your goal is. What's the primary motivator for selling? And I think both have advantages. So if you sell to a company that already exists in the market, what you get is the brand and credibility. You get a competitive differentiator, and you have access to their resources. If you sell to an international firm that's trying to have a presence in India, there is a significant amount of benefits with that too. But having said that, I think one of the things, I know Rajan may disagree with me on this, but I speak on basis personal experience. I think you have far more entrepreneurial freedom. You have more the ability to be more agile and flexible, because that company understands that you are more familiar with this market vis-a-vis them, and that's why they rely on you more. So yeah, it depends on what you're really looking through, but the valuations pretty much, globally and over here in India, I think are pretty much the same. So if you go EBIT or you go OPAT, they're pretty much the same. The multiple would change depending on which you're looking at, but I think they're pretty much the same across the world. I know Madan would be, someone who would offer a very good multiple to any of you over here. Yeah, Madan. Yeah.
What kind of multiples are on for us at the moment? EBITDA multiples.
So I mean, again, this perhaps investment banker would be more suited to answer this. But in my experience, what I've seen is EBITDA. I mean, of course, this is also. I mean, when you are getting into this acquisition or investment road, you need to see. It's not the current year EBITDA only. I mean, you need to look for the recasted. I mean, perhaps the investor would look for a little look back period, including the operating margins, what you have put in there, your working capital requirements. And I mean, I don't know quote a number because I'm really not suited there. But 4 to 8 would be even 8 is on a kind of higher side for EBITDA.
Yeah, I think. On EBIT, I mean, typically it is anywhere between, in fact, I was just speaking with someone last week who was looking at an acquisition in the region in Singapore, and the EBIT that was being offered over there was 3.5. So I'd say anywhere between 3.5 to maximum 8, and OPAT would be anywhere from 5.5 to 12.
Is that a difference between European and American?
No, not really. I mean, again, it depends on.
Rajan? Valuations, EBITDA.
So I think it depends on your motivations. If you're looking for a partner, and if it's for the long haul, for instance, I was offered a 3-year exit, and I said, look, I'm not exiting, and I'm going to be part of the business, and they were very happy about it. And I said, look, I'll stay on till I complete 60 in 2019, and Sampark completes 25 years, and they were very delighted with that. So honestly, to me, I didn't even quibble about the multiple. Whatever was offered, I took it because I looked at it as a partnership, and whatever perhaps if I had bargained, maybe I would have got a little more. But that was more than made up with the whatever 10 years of work we had and the kind of margins we had. I don't think. I think Omnicom was very fair. I mean, I've had discussions with a lot of people. I think that's one group probably which treats you very, very fairly. They give you your due. They value you. In fact, when I retired, they asked me to continue as the chairman. I said, look, I've had in a long run. I've been working for almost 45 years. I started working when I was 15. I said, I've had enough. Now I want to spend time with my grandchildren and go to the hills, play golf. So, it's a different motivation. I'm not saying that that's what all of you should do. But that's the way I chose to do it. Especially, I think I thought a great deal during the COVID time. I think that changed my outlook towards life. And I said, look, life is very transitory. So, I might as well do things which I have not been doing for the last, 30, 40 years. And today I feel that I've achieved that objective.
Do you think having a consultant on your side is going to be absolutely essential?
So here's what we didn't have a management. No, we didn't have. Funnily, it was just within a span of maybe around 8 months, we had 7 international firms reach out to us. No idea how, but very honestly, if I would have, give one piece of unsolicited advice, it would be that network, globally. Yeah. And that's typically what really helps. But of course, you've got to have a very strong team and a good roster of clients, and that typically is what will help. Yeah, but there are consultants out over there who can kind of find you a buyer, but I think you can do it yourself. That was my experience.
Come in here. I think they do help. At least in my case, since I only sold what I got paid for. So I sold 51% in the first tranche, 25.5 and 25.5. So it was very important for me because I think there are some tax issues here because you're not allowed to fix the multiple in advance for tranche, which is going to happen 1 year or 2 years down the line. And I think we found tremendous value hiring KPMG, and they came with this mother and daughter concept, which is the holding company and the voting shares and the non-voting shares. And I think that made a huge difference to the entire structure because we didn't have any income tax problems and all. So I think consultants do help. Lawyers do help. Merchant bankers, beyond a point, I don't know what they did to me except go through the whole thing. But yeah, the merchant banker was a dear friend of mine, so I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, so just to clarify, all right, if the question was, did we have consultants help us through the deal? Yes, of course we had. We had Deloitte do the deal for us, and we had a law firm that did the deal for us.
The share purchase agreement is
all of
something
that,
where the
yeah,
lawyers
of course.
come in. Sure, absolutely. What are the benefits of infusing strategic investment? Why should a young firm keep that in their mind and for future growth? Does it improve the hiring prospects? We heard hiring through the course of the day. How many cross-border deals does it offer you?
So I'll answer this. I don't think we looked at it as a strategic investment. We looked at it as a partnership. So there's a big difference. We're not doing it for money. We were doing it for, as I said, for the organization. Incidentally, the money came in, but that's, as I said, incidental. I mean, it didn't really, beyond a point, matter to me. Yeah, it does help in many ways. You get global clients, and the revenues and the margins from global clients are quite substantial compared to Indian firms who crib about every small thing and make you work the 24 hours, ask a lot of questions. But I think our experience with working for global clients was phenomenal. It also motivated the team because they had a chance to work with global clients, so the exposure levels was high. The retention went up. So all in all, I think the partnership really worked for us. At a personal level, I would say I am delighted with that, and if I were to do it all over again, I would do it.
Best practices, clients?
I think I'm not, personally, I'm not, big on strategic investment. If you're doing a deal, there's got to be a reason, and it's got to be an entire sale, of course, over a period of time, be it 3, 5, or 7 years, which is the earn-out period. People do go in for a strategic investment to have access to capital, to talent, to technology, innovation. But you know what? There's Madan and his team. They didn't need it. So, there is a contrarian view, and there is, there's enough examples and a lot of you over here. We had to do it at that point of time because of our size and the fact that we wanted to be relevant from a mid to longer point of view.
How large were you then?
We were around almost 80 people.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's my view.
Rajan, how large were you all when Ketchum came in?
I think we had about 65, 70 people at that point of
About
time.
the same size. Okay. So that is a good point.
2011, yeah.
Yeah. What are the downsides of getting in and, or selling your business? I'm sure it doesn't happen overnight, like, okay, today we switch the button and next day you're out of it, right? So you've got to do your earn-outs. You've got to work hard. You've got to meet certain targets. You are suddenly answerable to somebody. How does that chip in? And also, what kind of cultural changes does that bring into your organization? How do you prepare your teams to deal with it?
I think, again, it entirely depends on the deal. We had that great advantage because we worked with them for 7 years. So all our team knew them. They knew their working, the methodology, the best practices, whatever. And it was an equal partnership till I sold off my entire 100% in 2021. Till then, it was a 51-49 partnership, but in all ways, we were equal. In fact, I used to chair the board meetings where we had representatives of IndeComms and Ketchum from both APAC as well as from New York. So they didn't look at it as, we are subservient to them or we were junior partners. I mean, they had a business. They wanted to run it well. They wanted a good name. And so long as you delivered what they wanted, they were willing to respect us.
Some insights on that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, I think one of the, again, Rajan, you had a partnership 7-8 years before.
My case could be different. Right. I'm not saying that's generally the rule.
Right.
There could be exceptions. I think it's like a marriage. Some marriages work well, some marriages don't work well. But does it mean that the marriages you shouldn't marry? Maybe not.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So my experience is slightly different. I think one of the things you need to try and prep for is the loss of control. Right. After you're an entrepreneur, right, no longer are you necessarily going to be the final decision maker. That's one. Right? Depending on who you've sold to. If you've sold to a holding company like we did to WPP, then in that case. Second is, I think, there is the entire emotional attachment piece, right? Yeah, sorry. There is the entire emotional attachment piece, right? Here's a company that you've put your sweat and blood into and built it with a lot of passion. There is a sense of loss. Right, so that's the second. The third would be, the loss of entrepreneurial freedom. Right, and what I mean by that, and why that is different, is you no longer have the ability to take independent decisions on elements that are, that have risk attached to it. You can't take that because there's someone else that's going to, be involved in that decision making. The other would be, what hit us, which we weren't really prepared for, is the financial implications, right? Financial implications on two fronts. One was on the cost to business. So when you sell to a WPP, you have to align to their law firm. You have to align to their auditors, and those costs are, 10 times more than what the local shop that you, have been using for the last 10 years or so. The second thing that you should all remember is that, there is a huge tax implication. Eventually, at the end of the day, you might sell, for $100, but there is a huge tax implication. So that capital 20%.
20, if long term.
You can invest into houses and all that. You can buy it, so you don't really pay any tax.
25, I would think, at this point, right? 20.2. Okay.
Yeah, so with those surcharge and other things, that's different. But otherwise, it's 20%, and taxes, I don't think, a big issue, to my mind.
That's if you don't, so if you already have a house or two, then you can't keep investing in houses.
Yeah. It's
the government has taken care of that.
It doesn't work for commercial properties, only work for residential.
So if I may pitch in, I think I agree with Rajan here. If let's say you were to get a massive bonus that year because you made that kind of business, you would be paying around 36%. So this is still a much sweeter deal. So anyway, I think tax, I would say ultimately it's fine. But I completely agree with Jack's point. Just 2 points I want to add there. It goes back to the question why you are doing the deal. And it also goes back to the point with Mr. Behel said that do you intend to build an institution? Many times while building the institution, inorganic support and help is needed, which could be in form of you being the acquirer to someone or you being acquired to a part of a larger global role. We have also seen where the founders have been moved to a larger APAC roles or a global roles of those organizations. So the bottom line is stay relevant. And how would you stay relevant? That's the thought you need to bring into your bed every day when you start deciding about it at least a year before, that what would I do? It's not only me. You should have 4 or 5 allies around you, your key guys who can be. And the moment you are relevant and there's intricacies to your business, all these problems will be solved because they will rely on you. And then you have...
I'm sorry, it was 20% in 2011. I pay the marginal tax, which is about 42% now. So it's not 20% any longer. We didn't get that far, but yeah.
Zach, you can't use 6 degrees anymore, right? You lose.
Yes.
That's the emotion that you were talking about.
Yes.
So if let's say tomorrow one of us were to sell, let's say value 360 is no longer going to be.
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
We'd lose PR Pundit. No.
And
no way.
Let me on a lighter note.
That's hard.
Yeah. Let me tell you what was harder. we sold both Alphabet and 6 Degrees to WPP. And as you're all aware, Google rebranded themselves as Alphabet. And the first meeting I had with Sir Martin Sorrell was whether there was some value in that. And unfortunately, we didn't. So that hurt more than, the 6 Degrees.
Question: Do we patent our names? Do we have copyright?
It's patented,
Registrations?
yeah.
Is
You
there
have trademark
value?
registrations.
So is there value in doing it?
No, but it's only applicable to your line of business. So if I had Sampark, it can be only for PR. I mean, there are Sampark Foundation. In fact, there is one Sampark which is a very seedy business, and I used to get some calls once in a way. And it was crazy.
So Rajan is right here. Here's the lawyer's point. I mean, at times it can work against you as well. Long back, we were doing a deal for a company which is into these variety of salts and oreganos and those sort of thing. Their name resembles IKEA, and they had a old notice coming from IKEA that look, and then the investor, which was a PE fund, they picked up that and they said, hey, look, we need to sort this out. And that unnecessarily led a whole discussion with IKEA to resolve that and whether some sort of a payment or some sort of a restriction order has to get in. So that's the example of complicating the deal. So sometimes these may work against you as well. So yeah, but I mean, names perhaps not. It's a talent-driven industry, so perhaps the people.
One last question from me, and then we'll quickly open to the floor. In boutique or specialist kind of domains, you don't see too many M&As, while in generalist, you see a lot more. So, because there was a discussion around, is it better to be sort of a specialist or to be a generalist, then if you're looking to, let's say, at some point of time, be in the valuations game and earn investment, would a generalist stature be more attractive to a potential investor?
Well, I'm not so sure about it because I think our specializations, our capabilities were exactly the reverse of what Ketchum was. Ketchum was more into brand, technology, and other stuff. They were largely a brand-oriented agency, whereas we were hardly there in lifestyle brands. We focused more on financial services, corporate, technology, maybe crisis to some extent. So, I don't think. I think they're looking at people and what works. And most important is they're looking at margins. If you make money, they don't care how you make money. So long as you're good at what you do and you make money, you make decent profits, they're okay with that. I mean, at least that's my experience.
Zach, around 2015, India was on a high at that point as well.
Yes.
2023 is also
No, we did the deal in 2011 where I don't think India was doing any. In fact, it was post the Lehman.
You were the earliest.
No, there were others. Genesis, I think, did much earlier, probably.
Sir, I'm not Genesis, sir.
No, I'm not talking about you. Sorry. Oh, you were referring to him. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so to be honest, I think we did get a higher multiple because close to around 66% of our clients were in the tech space at the time of sale. So I actually don't subscribe to the fact that you won't be acquired if you are a specialist. In fact, why would an acquirer come to this market and look for? They either want people and some small established business, or if it's a larger firm like a Ketchum, right? Obviously, there was something that Rajan and team had, which was kind of complementary, right, and added to the entire offering. So I think there is huge benefit in specializing.
Yeah. Okay. So hope for specialists.
I think just one thought I'll leave on this point. I mean, when we see a lot of M&As, I mean, the bottom line is you build a business. And there will be a taker for that. You don't build a business purely for looking for acquisition or an investment, which was the case in a lot of VC industry as well, post 14, when India got a lot of this push, and then you will see a lot of business popping up, and they solely were built to seek investor funding. In my mind, that's not really a right approach to the thing. You build it, whether you're a specialist or generalist. If you build a business, it'll be a taker.
I wouldn't want to sell if I grow like Madan does.
Questions from the floor? Miss Mike, please, to Mr. Bahel.
I have a hypothesis that the private equity, if it acquires, wants the business to grow at as much as it can, depending on the potential. And if a strategic investor acquires, it just wants to slow you down so that it doesn't have to do too much payout. Is this a fair hypothesis?
So
Me? Well, I think somewhere probably he made a mistake in saying Omnicom is a private equity. It's not. It's like a private equity.
No, I was not referring to Omnicom as a specific. In general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in the case of strategic investor, he will stay on probably for a much longer time. And in the case of private equity, pure play private equity guy, probably he'll buy it from you and then sell it off to somebody else. But I don't think any private equity player is interested in PR. I don't think so at all.
yeah,
Actually, yes.
Madan, yeah, I mean,
There are not many deals internationally. Lots of
Private
deals.
equity, we won't do it because it's too small a business for them, even internationally.
Zach?
to answer your question, Madan, no, they never tried to slow us down, right? So we, on the contrary, they would do everything to try and help us grow. So it actually worked very well for us.
Yes,
From a
Mr.
PE point of view.
Mr. Bahel, with due respect, no, that may not be entirely correct, but I have examples. I do not take name. There are big corporates in other verticals, not in PR, which have done that. When they see a competitor growing up or coming with something which is so unique, which can be, they acquire and they kill that and they build it. So perhaps, I mean, to an extent, I don't know how much it will be relevant vis-a-vis the kind of players we are talking about in this scenario. But I also agree that the strategic guys may give a longer rope. Unlike PE, they don't have a pressure of exit and they are on any cost trying you to grow.
What has happened internationally is that the
Mike, sir.
company, when they acquired, private equity acquired it, they used it as an aggregator. That firm went on acquiring businesses and from a 10 million suddenly became a 100 million company. The same thing may not be the strategic investor where they just take this thing and integrate the operation.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Kunal.
Taking on from what Archana asked Madan, as a buyer, what would be the advice in terms of when you're looking to inorganically grow and not sell? Because you've seen you guys have seen the transaction and you would have seen how the buyer was evaluating you guys and what were the specific metrics that they were actually evaluating you at.
I think they're looking at, typically most of these guys would look at the quality of clients, the longevity of the clients, your profit margins, and essentially how you have been running the business, because you need to be very consistent in terms of growth. It need not be big growth because the foreigners don't grow beyond 4, 5, 6%. So even if you grow at 10%, it's okay. But consistency is very important and margins is very important. So you need to grow both in terms of top line, more importantly in terms of bottom line. In fact, in the case of Omnicom, they don't care about the top line at all, so long as you maintain the margins or increase the margins. They are perfectly okay even if the top line comes down, because that shows efficiency. You are able to do more profits. So essentially, the entire focus is profits. I think some wise guy out there who's a finance guy probably thought that, you catch the profits, everything takes care of itself. Because if you catch the turnover, it need not result in better profits. But if you catch the profits, automatically everything falls in place.
Just to add to that, I think one of the things they always look for is a clean set of books, right? A very clear business strategy, and how you selling ties into your business strategy. The third, I would say is your organizational structure. They're always very keen to know, outside of the founders, how strong is the leadership team. That's absolutely critical to them.
Yeah, I agree with Zach. I think some of those are very important, especially your books. these foreigners, especially listed company like Omnicom, are extremely finicky about your books. I mean, one small thing they find, they'll just run away. So that's very
So
important.
depth of business and depth of talent is what they're looking for. That's
Yeah, this the question is the
Xavier
Khaitan person. Yeah, this is Xavier Prabhu here. There was one more model that someone approached me, and I think that was very different, is that they were actually trying to combine multiple PR firms and then take them to list in Singapore as a combined entity. And that was something that I think, and then I spoke to one of my friends and they said, it just doesn't work and just say no, right? But basically they were picking up firms across Asia, like 6, 7 of them, and then they have a holding company, and then the holding company lists, and then you have a share in the holding company. So that was the model
SPAC.
that they were. Yeah.
SPAC is
it was not a SPAC either.
not a SPAC?
Yeah. So I was actually confused when one of my friends said, I think I spoke to Rajan as well, and Rajan also was not very keen on it, and I think it sounded a bit fishy as well.
It's a bit dodgy.
I mean, there are certain things like a SPAC and all those people use for, but I'm also not able to place it. I mean, what sort of a structure would this be?
Okay, so this is a question to Rajan James. And so while you have said the compulsions of selling, so...
I don't think there's any compulsion in the book.
No, sorry, James said. No, Zach. So Zach, so do you ever feel, after having done this deal 6 years back and now in 21, your full deal was done, Rajan, so do you ever feel somewhere that you should have been continuing in the business? It's a emotional question.
Let me tell you an unequivocal no even before you complete your question. I'm very happy. In fact, somebody told me I look better than what I was used to maybe
No, you
3
look.
years back.
I guarantee that.
Drained, stressed.
Yeah. You look fresh.
I think there is a time for everything. See, again, I think it's individual driven, right? Each one has his own motivations. I'm doing many other things which I never did before. I'm extremely happy, and I think in fact, I would say that my exit was delayed by 2 years because of COVID. It should have happened in 2019. It happened in 2021. And honestly, I wish it had happened in 2019. So I had 2 more years to do whatever I wanted to do. Yeah, I no regrets. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sold. In fact, I don't think anybody believed that I would retire. I don't think I ever believed that I will retire before COVID. In fact, my CFO, Omnicom CFO said, look, we sleep peacefully if you are there. And I said, what about me? I don't sleep.
Zach,
did you
do
feel...
you have a different response?
No, actually not. I mean, I have absolutely no regrets. There's always the feeling sometimes that crops up in your head thinking that maybe I should have delayed it, I should have been a bit bigger, and I would have got, realized greater value for ourselves. But you know what? That's a gamble. Greed is always there in one's head, but you've got to have the ability to manage that, by looking at the long term. And I think what we did was far more beneficial to the organization. May not necessarily have been to us alone, but to the organization, and no regrets at all.
One last question in the middle here. Okay.
Hi, this has been very, very interesting and enlightening, so thank you very much. My question is that if you had to redo the transaction in current time of 2023 that we are all sitting in, what would be that one change that you would have wanted?
I shouldn't sound ungrateful, but I would have loved to have more business from WPP coming in. But outside of that, I think for us, we were very lucky where the brand that acquired us was BCW, and the global CEO, Donna Imperato, was someone that we shared a very, very good relationship with. And in fact, every time WPP would kind of maybe put their foot down on something that we wanted to do, she would intervene and make sure it's done the way we wanted it. So I have actually no regrets. I think there's nothing I'd do differently.
Same here. I don't think we have any regrets. I think we would have done exactly the same thing. I think, this preferred partner relationship of 7 years was something which is unique for Omnicom. In fact, when we did the deal after 7 years, I spoke to Ray Kocher, who was then our chairman, and I said, look, you took far too long to do this deal. He said, Rajan, you're lucky. We did China in 15 years and Russia in 20 years, and we did yours for 7 years. So, I think that gives you understanding. It's like living together, understanding each other. So, that made a huge difference to us. So, absolutely no regrets. We would do exactly the same thing again. I only hope that I have those 7 years before I do a deal.
My question more is to Zach, because your versus what Mr. Rajan was trying is a little different. How did the people in your organization go through those? Because that's a very important part as well.
I think what was important was right at the beginning when we decided that we were going to do this deal. The first thing we did was we had a sit down with our leadership team and share the vision of and the rationale of why we were doing so, and the benefits and the advantages that the company was going to realize, and they as individuals in their own careers were going to realize. So that was something that was absolutely important and critical for us to have done.
So selling it internally and communicating it internally.
And irrespective, there's always going to be we were aware that there were going to be concerns and challenges, etc. So what we did was, in all our companies, we have these champions, right? The guys who are always, willing to stand by you. So, and we had those handful of them across levels. And outside of the leadership, we did brief those champions also. So when we did make the announcement internally, right, after the meeting, they were typically the go-to for airing of concerns, those champions, right, for everyone else. So they would either direct those, colleagues to us, or if it was issues that they could kind of address themselves because of the briefing and the vision that we had shared with them, then they would just kind of, nip it over there itself. But culture is a big thing, right? So one of the things is aligning to, everyone. An acquirer always does a due diligence of you and your books and everything. And what we were very keen to understand was also, doing a due diligence of the company's values, culture, all of that, so that, there was minimal, issues around that.
Yeah, that's a point that I did ask a few other people who've been invested in, and they said, well, go visit their offices, go look at what their culture is to be able to then decide whether that organization is going to take care of your people. So that aligns with that. Just one last question for Kartikeya. Any deals of this nature, M&As, in the sort of lawyers' agreements or the transactions, they always put a lot of guardrails. For example, you use the use of your own brand name, some non-compete clauses that you can only work with them and not with anybody else. Now, having been passionate communicators, how do you deal with it? How is it that we can protect ourselves? Let's say if we were to sell at some point of time, are there any ways out of these things? We can eat our cake and what? Have our cake and eat it too. Have our cake and eat it too.
So that's it's again part of the deal formation and quite a fair ask. I mean, from the buyer's perspective as well, they are investing into your business or acquiring it basis certain ideology, but basis certain assumptions. If you open a shop then and thereafter and start competing, again, that does not tally. And that's precisely for talent-driven businesses, the earn-out model comes into a picture, or a longer courtship period comes, whether in form of a preferred partnership or in form of a small sale of equity stake throughout that period. So that's precisely for that, so that the talent stays there, the client stays there. So Jack can also throw light. I understand he is on his non-compete period as of now. So common across industry, not really here across industry. So one can see that it is reasonable. It's not going beyond a certain line. All those sort of things can be thought through and discussed upfront and bring to what is market and what is reasonable. But I would request, that's something one has to honor.
Zach, what is your non-compete?
So it's a 2-year one. But you know what? I think it's only fair. So when an acquirer is, spending all this money, time, and effort, I think it's only fair that they kind of protect their interests also. So I think there's got to be a reasonable cool-off period. But I think you need a good lawyer to go through your agreements and look for something that might not be, very obvious. But I think, you can always negotiate with the business leaders. The lawyers are pretty, stuck up. But if you have the business leaders that are wanting to do the deal with you, you can always negotiate with them, and then they get their lawyers to make those changes over there. But otherwise, in general, they're pretty okay.
Sorry, I'll just chip in one more point, I think. No, Jack is absolutely right. I think a lot of other things, like let's say if you are a business, you are coming from a family of entrepreneurs, your cousins and others are also involved in similar or ancillary business. Those need to be carved out of front. Similarly, let's say tomorrow you want to spend that 1 year, 2 year time period with writing a book, or you want to mentor someone. We are talking about someone, serial entrepreneur, someone very senior. He would have a discussion with 5 people. He may have a personal loan to some of the founders who are into same business. So a lot of these things, if told upfront and cleared upfront, I think it can be very easy. It can be navigated. But tomorrow somebody can make a movie and you need to share a lot of things about it. So, we see where founders are very thought through and clear, and public personalities, they handle it really well. And of course, lawyers.
Amit is now
just one last
disrupting
thing. Madan, I have one more point to that question on capital gains. I forgot to mention that now it's limited to 10 crores, okay, for any set-off. So no aircrafts, you won't even get a house.
On that happy note, we can say, Mr. Well, you're going to work till 99 and so am I. So it's okay. We can deal with it.
Madan said, I'm taking inspiration from you on around the 99 years thing, and tonight I'm going to start working on a business plan so that, I can give you company until then.
Whoa. On that happy note, thank you, everybody. Sorry we've taken longer than necessary.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great insights. Thank you so much, everybody on this panel. Thank you, Archana, Kartikeya. Thank you, Mr. Rajan. Thank you, Zach.